I always thought my marriage was built on a strong foundation. Sarah and I had been together for nearly a decade, and in my mind we were partners in every sense of the word. We had shared dreams, laughter, and countless memories that felt etched into the very fabric of our lives. I loved her deeply, perhaps naively so, but love can blind a man, and I was no exception. As I reflect on those early days, I remember the way her eyes sparkled when she talked about her dreams. She was ambitious, passionate, and had an infectious energy that drew people in. I was captivated by her spirit, and I thought that we could conquer the world together. But lately I had noticed changes, subtle at first but growing increasingly apparent. The late nights at work, the secretive phone calls, her sudden obsession with her appearance. I brushed them off as stress from her job, convinced that my worries were unfounded. I wanted to trust her, to believe that our love was unshakable. Then came the day that shattered my world. I had been cleaning out the garage when I stumbled upon an old box of papers, forgotten and gathering dust. Among the clutter, I found a receipt from a restaurant, a fancy place I knew she often frequented with friends. But as I examined it more closely, my heart sank. The receipt was dated for a night when she had claimed to be working late. It wasn't just the receipt that set off alarm bells. It was the name written in elegant script at the bottom, a chef I had heard her mention several times. A man who had been celebrated for his culinary skills and who, unbeknownst to me, was now a figure in our lives that I would come to despise. I felt the weight of betrayal settle deep in my chest. The signs had been there all along, and I had rationalized them away. I was furious with myself for being so oblivious, but more than that, I was heartbroken. How could she do this to us? To me. The thought of her with another man, the intimacy they must have shared, was a wound that cut deeper than I could articulate. That night, as I lay in bed beside her, I felt a profound sense of loss. I watched her sleep, her face serene and peaceful, blissfully unaware of the storm brewing in my heart. The ache of betrayal morphed into a fierce resolve. I needed to confront her, but I wanted it to be on my terms. I wanted her to feel the weight of her actions, to understand the gravity of what she had done. As the days passed, I devised a plan. I would arrange a romantic dinner at the very restaurant where she had betrayed me. I could already envision the scene, the ambience of flickering candlelight, the clinking of glasses, the tantalizing aroma of gourmet food. I would have the chef serve her the bad news, and in that moment she would realize the magnitude of her betrayal. I wanted to strip away the illusion she had built around us, to expose the truth in the most dramatic way possible. It was a twisted form of revenge, I knew, but I felt justified. I had been wronged, and I wanted her to feel the weight of that betrayal. I wanted her to see the man she had chosen over me, the man who would serve as the harbinger of her downfall. With each passing hour, my resolve grew stronger. I contacted the restaurant and made the arrangements. The chef, unaware of the role he would play in this unfolding drama, agreed to help me. I could already picture the look on Sarah's face when the truth was laid bare before her. The anticipation was both exhilarating and terrifying. I was about to enter a world of emotional chaos, and I was ready. As I prepared for the dinner, I felt a storm of emotions swirling within me: anger, betrayal, and a bittersweet sense of justice. I was ready to confront the woman I loved, to expose her infidelity in a way that would leave no room for denial. The countdown had begun, and I was bracing myself for the confrontation that would change everything. The night of the dinner arrived, and I was a bundle of nerves wrapped in a facade of calm. I dressed in a crisp white shirt and dark slacks, the fabric feeling foreign against my skin as I prepared to face Sarah. I wanted to look my best, not out of love, but to remind her of what she was throwing away. I wanted her to remember the man she had pledged her life to, standing before her as the embodiment of betrayal and heartbreak. The restaurant was a fancy establishment known for its intimate atmosphere and exquisite cuisine. The moment I stepped inside, the soft glow of candlelight and the gentle hum of conversations enveloped me, sending a shiver down my spine. It was a place that had once held fond memories for us, anniversaries, birthday celebrations, and moments of laughter. Now, it felt like a stage set for a tragedy. As I walked toward the table I had reserved, I caught sight of the chef bustling around the open kitchen. He was a tall man with a confident demeanor, his hands deftly working as he prepared dishes with precision. I had admired his talent from afar, appreciating the artistry of his cooking. But tonight, he was not just a chef. He was the unwitting architect of my revenge. I felt a surge of anger at the thought of him, a man who had taken my wife's affection and trust while I was left in the dark. I settled into my seat and took a moment to breathe. The weight of what I was about to do pressed heavily on my chest. I could already picture Sarah's reaction when she walked through those doors, blissfully unaware of the storm brewing beneath the surface. The anticipation was almost unbearable. My heart raced as I imagined the moment when the truth would unravel, like a tightly wound spool of thread finally coming undone. When she arrived, I watched her from a distance. She looked radiant, dressed in a flowing dress that accentuated her figure. Her hair fell in soft waves around her shoulders, and her eyes sparkled with excitement. She greeted me with a smile that felt like a dagger to my heart. How could she seem so carefree when I was drowning in pain? I forced a smile in return, but inside I was a tempest of emotions. "Wow, this place is amazing," she exclaimed as she sat down, her eyes wide with delight. "Did you plan this all by yourself?" "Of course," I replied, trying to keep my tone light. "I wanted to do something special for us." As the waiter approached to take our order, I felt a knot tighten in my stomach. I had chosen the menu carefully, selecting dishes that I knew she would love. Each course was a reminder of our shared history that was now tainted with betrayal. I watched her as she perused the menu, her enthusiasm palpable, and I felt a pang of sorrow. Throughout the meal, our conversation flowed easily, but I could sense an undercurrent of tension beneath the surface. I was acutely aware of every laugh, every smile, and every moment she seemed to be enjoying herself. It felt like a cruel joke, this facade of normalcy that we were both playing into. I was torn between the desire to enjoy this moment and the need to confront her. As the main course was served, I caught the chef's eye from the kitchen. He nodded subtly, a silent agreement passing between us. I could feel the anticipation building within me, the moment of revelation drawing closer. I had orchestrated this dinner not just for her enjoyment, but as the stage for her reckoning. I wanted her to savor every bite, only to realize that each one was a reminder of the deception that had poisoned our relationship. "Everything tastes incredible," Sarah remarked, savoring the flavors of the dish before her. "I can't believe how lucky we are to have such a wonderful meal." I forced a smile, but inside my heart was racing. I was about to shatter her illusion, to expose the truth in the most dramatic way possible. The evening was unfolding beautifully, and I felt both exhilarated and terrified. I wanted her to remember this dinner, not as a celebration of our love, but as the moment her betrayal was laid bare. As we finished our main course, I signaled to the chef, who began preparing the dessert. The tension in the air was palpable. I could feel my pulse quickening as I rehearsed the words I would say when the moment finally arrived. I wanted to choose them carefully, to make sure they cut through the veneer of our evening like a knife through butter. "Are you ready for dessert?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. "I can't wait," she replied, her eyes sparkling with anticipation. But little did she know that dessert wouldn't be the only thing served that night. As the chef approached our table with a plate in hand, I felt the weight of the moment settle around us. The air was thick with unspoken words, and I was ready to unleash the truth that had been festering between us. As the chef approached our table, I felt a surge of adrenaline coursing through my veins. He carried a beautifully plated dessert, a work of art crafted with precision and flair. The fragrant aroma of chocolate and berries wafted toward us, momentarily distracting me from the storm brewing inside. I forced myself to focus, knowing that the moment of truth was just around the corner. "Bon appetit," the chef said warmly, placing the dessert in front of Sarah. I watched her eyes widen with delight as she took in the presentation, the delicate layers, the vibrant colors, and the artistic drizzle of sauce that adorned the plate. For a brief moment, I felt a pang of guilt. This was a man who had worked hard to create something beautiful, and I was about to use it as a weapon. But then I remembered the betrayal, the lies, and the heartache that had led me to this point. "This looks amazing," Sarah exclaimed, her voice filled with genuine excitement. She picked up her fork and took a bite, her expression transforming into one of pure bliss. "Oh my God, this is incredible. You really outdid yourself, honey." I nodded, forcing a smile as I watched her savor the dessert. Each bite she took felt like a dagger to my heart, a reminder of the love I thought we shared and the trust that had been shattered. I tried to focus on her happiness, to push aside my tumultuous feelings, but the weight of the impending confrontation loomed over me like a dark cloud. "Do you remember our first date here?" I asked, trying to steer the conversation toward a more nostalgic topic. "I ordered the chocolate souffle and you insisted on sharing it with me. You said it was the best dessert you ever had." She laughed, her eyes sparkling as she recalled the memory. "I still think about that night. You were so nervous and I thought you were adorable. I can't believe how far we've come since then." "Yeah," I replied, my voice barely above a whisper. "It's hard to believe we've been together for so long." As the evening progressed, I found myself trapped in a whirlwind of emotions. I wanted to enjoy this moment, to cherish the memories we had built together, but the knowledge of her infidelity gnawed at me. I observed her as she continued to relish each bite of dessert, unaware of the storm brewing just beneath the surface. "Are you happy?" I asked suddenly, the question slipping from my lips before I could stop myself. It was a loaded question, one that I knew would elicit a thoughtful response. "Of course I am," she replied, her brow furrowing slightly. "Why wouldn't I be? We have a great life together. I love you." Her words felt like a knife twisting in my gut. I wanted to believe her, to cling to the hope that things were still as they once were, but the truth hung heavily between us. I could see the flicker of doubt in her eyes, the momentary hesitation that suggested she might not be as certain as she claimed. "Do you really?" I pressed, my voice steady but filled with an intensity I couldn't hide. "I mean, do you really love me?" "Of course I do. What kind of question is that?" she replied, her defensiveness rising. "You know I love you. We've built a life together." I swallowed hard, my heart racing as I prepared for the moment I had been building toward all night. I could feel the tension in the air, a palpable energy that crackled between us. I was ready to unveil the truth, to expose the betrayal that had haunted me for so long. "Then why didn't you tell me about the chef?" I asked, my voice low but unwavering. "Why didn't you tell me about your late-night meetings with him?" Her expression shifted, confusion flooding her features. "What are you talking about?" she asked, her voice trembling slightly. I leaned in closer, my heart pounding in my chest. "I know about the affair, Sarah. I know you've been seeing him behind my back." The silence that followed was deafening. I watched as her face paled, the color draining from her cheeks as the realization sank in. She opened her mouth to speak, but no words came out. The shock was evident, and for a brief moment I felt a sense of satisfaction. I had finally confronted her, laid bare the truth that had haunted me for weeks. "Who told you?" she finally managed to stammer, her voice barely above a whisper. "It doesn't matter who told me," I replied, my tone icy. "What matters is that you betrayed me. You chose him over me, and I deserve to know why." "I didn't mean for it to happen," she stuttered, her eyes darting around the restaurant as if searching for an escape. "It was a mistake, a moment of weakness." "A moment of weakness?" I echoed, my voice rising. "You've been seeing him for weeks, Sarah. This isn't just a mistake, it's a choice you made repeatedly." The chef, who had been watching from the kitchen, stepped closer, sensing the tension at our table. I could see the confusion in his eyes, unaware of the role he had played in this unfolding drama. I gestured for him to come over, and he approached with a cautious smile. "Is everything all right?" he asked, glancing between us. "No, everything is not all right," I replied, my voice steady. "Sarah and I were just having a discussion about her affair with you." The chef's expression shifted from confusion to shock as he processed my words. I could see the realization dawning on him, and in that moment I felt a strange sense of camaraderie with him. We were both victims in this twisted love triangle, and now the truth was finally out in the open. Sarah's eyes widened as she looked between us, panic setting in. "No, wait, this isn't what it looks like," she pleaded, desperation creeping into her voice. But I was done with the lies. I was done with the charade. The dessert lay untouched on the table, a symbol of the sweetness that had turned bitter. I had orchestrated this moment for a reason, and now it was time to watch the facade crumble. The air was thick with tension as Sarah's eyes darted between me and the chef. I could see the realization dawning on her face, the panic rising as she struggled to find the words to defend herself. It was a moment I had envisioned countless times, but now that it was here, it felt surreal. "Please, let's not do this here," she pleaded, her voice shaky. "We can talk about this at home. Just give me a chance to explain." "Explain?" I scoffed, my anger boiling beneath the surface. "What could you possibly say that would justify what you've done? You've been lying to me, Sarah. You've been sneaking around with this man while I thought everything was fine between us." The chef stood awkwardly, caught in the middle of our confrontation. I could see the discomfort etched on his face, but I was done playing nice. I gestured for him to stay, wanting him to witness the fallout of his actions. He had played a part in this betrayal, and now he would see the consequences unfold. "Let's get one thing straight," I said, my voice low but firm. "You may have thought you could hide your affair from me, but the truth always finds a way to surface. You think I wouldn't notice the late nights, the secretive phone calls. I loved you and I trusted you, and you shattered that trust." Sarah's expression shifted from panic to defiance. "You don't understand. It was complicated. I didn't plan for it to happen," she protested, her voice rising as she attempted to regain control of the situation. "Complicated?" I echoed, incredulous. "You don't get to use that word to justify your actions. You made a conscious choice to betray me. You made a choice to be with him instead of being honest with me." The chef, who had remained silent until now, finally spoke up. "I had no idea you were married," he said, his voice steady but laced with concern. "I thought your wife was just a fan of my cooking." "Don't try to play the victim here," I shot back, my focus shifting to him. "You knew what you were doing when you broke the boundaries of our relationship. You took advantage of her trust." Looked taken aback, but I could see the flicker of guilt in his eyes. "I didn't mean for this to happen," he said, his tone softening. "I genuinely thought she was single. Spare me the excuses," I snapped. "You both made your choices, and now it's time to face the music." I turned my attention back to Sarah, who was now visibly shaken. Her bravado had crumbled, and I could see the tears welling up in her eyes. "I'm so sorry," she said, her voice thick with emotion. "I never wanted to hurt you. I thought I could keep it all separate. I thought I could manage both." "Manage both?" I echoed, my voice rising again. "You thought you could juggle your marriage and an affair without any consequences? Did you really think I wouldn't find out?" "I don't know," she cried, her hands trembling as she wiped away the tears streaming down her cheeks. "I thought it was just a fling. I thought it wouldn't matter." "Clearly it mattered to you," I shot back, my anger flaring. "You didn't think about me, about our life together. You only thought about your own desires." The restaurant around us had fallen silent, the soft sounds of clinking cutlery and murmured conversations replaced by the weight of our confrontation. I could feel the eyes of other diners on us, their curiosity piqued by the unfolding drama. I didn't care. This was my moment, and I wanted everyone to witness the truth. "I don't want to hear any more excuses," I said, my voice steady. "You've hurt me in a way that I can't even begin to describe. You've broken my heart, and I don't know if I can ever trust you again." The chef shifted uncomfortably, glancing between us. "Maybe we should take a step back," he suggested, trying to diffuse the tension. "It's clear that this is a personal matter, and I don't want to intrude." "No, you're already intruding," I retorted, my gaze locked on Sarah. "You've both crossed a line, and now it's time to face the consequences." I turned back to her, my heart racing as I prepared to lay it all on the line. "I want you to understand what you've done. You've betrayed not just our marriage, but everything we've built together. You've taken my love and crushed it underfoot." Her sobs echoed in the silence, and for a moment I felt a flicker of empathy, but it was quickly extinguished by the weight of my own pain. "You need to choose, Sarah," I said, my voice firm. "You have to decide if you want to continue this charade or if you're ready to confront the reality of what you've done." "I want to make it right," she pleaded, desperation lacing her words. "I'll do whatever it takes to fix this. I love you." The words hung in the air, heavy and charged. I wanted to believe her, to grasp onto the remnants of our love, but the betrayal was a wound too deep to heal quickly. Love isn't just words, Sarah, it's actions, and your actions have spoken louder than anything you could say right now. I took a deep breath, the weight of my decision settling over me like a shroud. I think it's best if we part ways tonight. I need time to process this, to figure out what I want. And I think you need time to reflect on your choices. Her face fell, anguish etched into every feature. Please don't say that. I can change. I'll end things with him, I swear. But I was already shaking my head, my heart heavy. It's too late for that. You've already made your choice and I can't just overlook it. I need to protect myself now. With that, I turned to the chef who stood by, still processing the gravity of the situation. Thank you for your time, I said, my tone cool and detached. But I think it's best if you leave us now. He nodded, understanding. The weight of the moment. I'm really sorry for what's happened, he said softly before retreating back to the kitchen, leaving us in a silence that felt suffocating. As I turned back to Sarah, I saw the realization wash over her face. This was it, the moment that would define the rest of our lives. I could see the pain in her eyes, but I was beyond caring. I had to prioritize my own heart now. Take some time to think about what you truly want, I said, my voice steady. I'll be in touch when I'm ready to talk. With that, I stood up and walked away, leaving her sitting at the table, tears streaming down her face. The weight of betrayal had been lifted, but the sorrow remained, a heavy reminder of what we had lost. I didn't look back as I exited the restaurant, the door swinging shut behind me, sealing the moment in time. I stepped out into the cool night air, the bustling sounds of the restaurant fading into the background as I walked away. My heart was racing, a mix of adrenaline and heartbreak coursing through me. The confrontation had been explosive. And now, the reality of what had just unfolded began to settle in. I felt like I had just emerged from a storm, drenched, exhausted, and disoriented. I walked aimlessly for a while, my mind racing with thoughts and emotions. I replayed the dinner in my head, every word exchanged, every expression on Sarah's face. The shock, the desperation, the sheer disbelief, it was all still fresh in my mind. I had wanted her to feel the weight of her choices, but I hadn't anticipated the depth of my own pain. A part of me felt a strange sense of relief. I had finally confronted her, finally laid bare the truth that had been gnawing at me for weeks. But the relief was fleeting, quickly overshadowed by an overwhelming sense of loss. I had lost the woman I loved, the life we had built together, and the trust that had once been the cornerstone of our relationship. As I walked, I found myself outside a small park, the moonlight casting a silver glow over the path. I took a seat on a bench, the cool metal grounding me as I tried to gather my thoughts. I could feel the weight of the world pressing down on my shoulders, and I let out a shaky breath. I had always thought love was a safe harbor, a refuge from the storms of life. But tonight it felt like a shipwreck, leaving me stranded in an ocean of uncertainty. I pulled out my phone, staring at the screen as I contemplated calling Sarah, but I hesitated. What would I say? I'm sorry for breaking your heart. Let's try to work through this. No, I couldn't do that. The betrayal was too raw, too fresh. I needed time to process my feelings and figure out what I truly wanted moving forward. As I sat in the park, I thought about the future. What would it look like without Sarah? The thought made my heart ache. We had shared so much, dreams, hopes, and memories. But now those memories felt tainted, overshadowed by the betrayal that had shattered everything. I thought about the life we had envisioned together, and it felt like a cruel joke. The future I had once looked forward to now felt like a distant mirage. I pulled my phone out again, scrolling through photos of us together, vacations, celebrations, ordinary moments that now felt like relics of a past that no longer existed. Each image was a reminder of the love we had shared, and each one cut deeper than the last. I felt a wave of anger rise within me, directed not just at Sarah but also at myself. How could I have been so blind? How could I have ignored the signs? Suddenly, my phone buzzed in my hand, jolting me from my thoughts. It was a message from Sarah. My heart raced as I opened it, half expecting an apology, a plea for forgiveness. Instead, it was a simple message. I'm so sorry. I love you. Please let's talk. I stared at the screen, my emotions swirling like a tempest. I wanted to respond, to tell her everything I was feeling, but I couldn't bring myself to type the words. I felt lost in a sea of confusion, caught between the love I had for her and the betrayal that had left me shattered. After a few moments, I turned off my phone and put it away. I needed to clear my mind to find some semblance of peace. I took a deep breath, focusing on the sounds of the park, the rustling leaves, the distant laughter of children playing, the soft hum of the city around me. I needed to ground myself to find a way to navigate this new reality. As the minutes turned into hours, I finally made my way home. The familiar surroundings felt foreign, and I hesitated at the door, my heart pounding in my chest. I stepped inside, the silence enveloping me like a heavy blanket. The apartment felt empty without Sarah's laughter, without her presence filling the space. I walked through the rooms, memories flooding back, dinners we had shared, lazy Sundays spent on the couch, the little moments that had once brought us joy. But now those moments felt tainted. I moved to the living room and sank onto the couch, my head in my hands. I felt like I was drowning, consumed by the weight of my emotions. I had never anticipated that love could feel so heavy, so burdensome. I had always believed that love was supposed to lift you up, to make you feel safe and secure. But now it felt like a prison, trapping me in a cycle of pain and heartache. I closed my eyes, allowing the tears to fall. I had never been one to cry easily, but tonight the dam had broken. I felt a mix of anger, sadness, and betrayal wash over me, and I let it all out. I cried for the love I had lost, for the trust that had been shattered, and for the future that now felt uncertain. Eventually, the tears subsided, leaving me feeling drained but slightly lighter. I knew I had a long road ahead of me, a journey of healing and self-discovery. I would need to confront my feelings, to process the betrayal and figure out what I wanted for my future. But for now, I allowed myself to feel the pain, to acknowledge the hurt that had become a part of me. As I sat in the silence of my home, I resolved to take things one day at a time. I would focus on healing, on finding my own strength amidst the wreckage of my marriage. It wouldn't be easy, but I knew that I had to prioritize my own well-being. A part of me still held on to hope that one day I might find a way to forgive Sarah, to rebuild what had been lost. But for now, I needed to focus on myself, to rediscover who I was outside of our relationship. The journey ahead would be difficult, but I was determined to emerge stronger, no matter how long it took. The days turned into weeks, and the weeks turned into months. Time became both my enemy and my ally. Each passing day felt like a step further away from the pain, yet the memories of Sarah lingered like shadows in the corners of my mind. I had made the decision to focus on myself, to rediscover who I was outside of the confines of our marriage. The journey was neither quick nor easy, but it was necessary. I found solace in routine, going to the gym, immersing myself in books, and spending time with friends who had supported me through the storm. They offered a listening ear and a shoulder to lean on, reminding me that I was not alone in this. I learned to embrace my solitude, to find strength in the quiet moments that had once felt so heavy. Each day, I took small steps toward healing, and slowly the weight on my chest began to lift. I also sought therapy, a decision that felt daunting at first but ultimately proved to be one of the best I could have made. It allowed me to confront my feelings head-on, to process the betrayal and the heartache. My therapist guided me through the tangled web of emotions, helping me understand that it was okay to grieve, not just for the love I had lost, but for the future I had envisioned with Sarah. I learned to embrace the complexity of my feelings, to acknowledge the anger and sadness while also allowing space for healing. As the months passed, I began to find clarity. I realized that love, while beautiful, could also be fragile. I had poured my heart into my marriage, believing that love alone would be enough to weather any storm. But now, I understood that love required honesty, trust, and mutual respect. Sarah had broken that trust, and while I still cared for her, I knew that I could no longer be the person who would accept betrayal. One evening, as I sat on my balcony watching the sunset, I felt a sense of peace wash over me. The vibrant colors of the sky mirrored the transformation I had undergone, once dark and tumultuous, now filled with hope and possibility. I had learned to embrace my own worth, to recognize that I deserved love that was genuine and unwavering. It was during this moment of reflection that I made a decision. I would reach out to Sarah, not to rekindle what we had, but to find closure. I wanted to have an honest conversation, to express my feelings and give her the opportunity to share her side of the story. I needed to understand why she had made the choices she did, and perhaps in doing so, I could finally let go of the lingering resentment that had held me captive. I drafted a message, my heart racing as I typed. "Hey Sarah, I hope you're doing well. I've been doing a lot of thinking lately, and I'd like to talk if you're open to it. No pressure, but I think it might help us both find some closure." After hitting send, I felt a sense of liberation. Whatever her response would be, I was ready to face it. I had grown stronger and I knew that I could handle whatever came next. A few days later, Sarah replied, her message filled with a mix of uncertainty and hope. "I'd like that. I've been doing a lot of thinking too. Can we meet at our old cafe?" The meeting felt surreal as I walked into the cafe, the familiar ambience washing over me. I spotted her sitting at a table, her expression a mix of apprehension and nostalgia. Time had changed us both. We were no longer the same people who had shared dreams and laughter. "Hey," I said, taking a seat across from her. "Hey," she replied, her voice soft. The conversation began tentatively, each of us navigating the emotional minefield that lay between us. Sarah spoke of her regrets, the choices she had made, and the emptiness that followed. She admitted that she had been lost, seeking validation in all the wrong places. I listened, allowing her to share her truth while also expressing my feelings, my heartbreak, my anger, and the journey of healing I had undertaken. By the end of our conversation, there was a sense of understanding, a mutual acknowledgement of the pain we had caused each other. I realized that while we could never go back to what we once had, we could find a way to move forward separately but with a sense of closure and respect. As I left the cafe that day, I felt a weight lift from my shoulders. I had faced the ghosts of my past and emerged stronger, ready to embrace the future. I knew that healing was a continuous journey, one that would require patience and self-love. But I was no longer afraid. I had learned to trust myself, to value my worth, and to recognize that I deserved a love built on honesty and trust. In the months that followed, I continued to grow. I explored new passions, met new people, and opened my heart to the possibilities that lay ahead. I realized that love was not just a destination. It was a journey filled with lessons, growth, and the courage to embrace change. As I reflected on the path I had traveled, I found solace in the knowledge that I was no longer defined by my past. I had emerged from the ashes of betrayal, ready to forge a new path, one that held the promise of love, trust, and a brighter tomorrow. I closed my eyes, feeling the warmth of the sun on my face, and smiled. The future was mine to shape, and I was ready to embrace it.